This is the second video in our trying to diagnose and fix the Yamaha FZR carburetor leak. We made some progress the first day, and we made some big progress today. But the leak still is to be fixed. But I showed in this video how I diagnose it, how I set up a fake gas tank to do the testing, and some of the tips and tricks that you might want to use if you have a similar bike and you have a leaking carburetor. Because if you have old bikes, there's a good chance somewhere in the course of ownership, you will wind up having a leaky carburetor. There's good information on this video. So this time of year, you never could really tell what's coming down the pipe. The snow is on its way already. We're expecting it tomorrow morning. When I wake up, there'll be snow. I got the snowblower ready this morning, so I'm really not worried about it. But what I'll have to do now, I'll have to dedicate tomorrow to putting these carbs on, I guess. But anyway, they seem like the carbs that never want to get back on the bike. But today, Karen made a good point, and I give her credit for this. She says, we're going to be snowed in tomorrow, more than likely. So she gave me a list of errands to do, because what that'll do, see, by getting all the errands done today, tomorrow I'll have a free day. Now, a free day means I can go do the snowblower if necessary, and then have the whole day to work on this guy. And it's going to be labor intensive, because I've got to hook up the fake gas tank and I've got to see if these leak. And I really can't tell if they leak until I put them in place and run the fuel pump, because these are set to shut off with fuel pump pressure. So I don't know what to say. Every day's an adventure here. So what I did, I spoke to Luciano. Luciano has all the parts now to make an Evil Twin H1, and he's busy doing the prep on that, and we're going to be doing the paint work on that soon, and maybe make up some custom decals for it. I don't know what exactly he wants to do, but we're gonna certainly be having it on our video channel. And for the people, and welcome Joe to the A-Team. Joe in South Carolina, in Myrtle Beach. I hope it's not North Carolina. I don't really know. But anyway, Joe, I'm still envious of that garage you have. And Whistle Clean Bikes. And he changes his own tires. We must be brothers. So what's happened is, after a couple of days of riding this, and the roads were salty and crappy. And you notice one thing I do in the winter. When it gets cold, I'm a coward. I ride the bikes that have a windshield, not the ones like the GS and the MT that don't have a windshield. It's because I'm a coward, not an Eskimo. The other thing too is, when I get back from a ride, and I did a pretty good job, but I do see I missed a few spots. The new RK chain now has about 200 miles on it. It's looking really good, and I can't tell, because there's still enough grease on there, if it needs to be fine-tuned, the adjustment. But usually the Kawasaki marks are pretty accurate. But one by one, I have tried to get all my projects done before it got brutally cold out here in the garage. And these carburetors are just nagging. But when we start working on the H1 project, most of it is down in the cellar then. So again, it's all part of being a coward. And for anybody who might not know, people that are new to the channel, I have several Evil Twins. An Evil Twin is a bike like the FZR, like the GS. Just two examples right there. The bike at one time was our Ferrari bike, one of the Ferrari bikes, and we decided we need something new. We turned it into an FZR bike. We had the West Cooley GS, and we have this GS. Now I really only have one GS. And what I do is I switch the tail section, all the painted parts. You can do it in about an hour, realistically. And then I only have to register one bike. I only have to keep one engine maintained and oil changed and everything. And I can even, in this case, I have a set of the gray wheels to switch with the gold wheels. And I have the set of green wheels, and you can see one is black and one is green, because I haven't had a chance to switch the other wheel yet on the Green Ninja. But anyway, I call that, and it's my little pet name that I invented, call them Evil Twins. Because it's like you have two bikes, but you only pay for one. You only pay for one registration. In this case, you only have to maintain one bike, and somewhere over the winter or whatever, You can just switch out the parts. Everybody thinks you bought a new bike. The other thing that's good about it, if you bought a new bike, you wouldn't know the quality of the engine, the quality of the... You wouldn't even know. This way, I know this is a bike that's a keeper. So by making... I've maintained the fact that it's a great engine. Everything, the chain isn't falling apart or anything. I don't have to buy another bike. That's the whole point. And in the end, when I swap out bodywork, it's like having a new bike. Whenever I look at pictures of this with the black rims, flat black rims no less, and all of the way it was before we made it an evil twin, I just think, wow, it's a great idea. And when we got the Ninja, it was red and black. I still have the red and black bodywork. And I did this bodywork. I had two of these bikes. So I took the better of the two bodywork, the best fender of the two, the best fairing of the two, the best tank of the two, and made this into what is now the Green Ninja. And now you can see we have one black wheel and one green wheel. Well, as soon as we finish off that tire, another 1,000 miles or so, we'll have the black rims. It gives you the idea of almost the feeling of having two bikes, but you really only pay for one. And of course the question I always ask, what will become of the MT-09? That's somewhere down the road. I haven't had anything jump out at me, but I like the idea of keeping it a naked bike, not a faired bike. And I love the power band, the torque, the ride. Is just not. I just don't want to change anything at this point. So anyway, that's all part of it. And in my case, sometimes you can just change out the seat, change out the front fender, change out some of the fairing parts, change the wheels, change what helmet you're wearing, change to a carbon fiber windshield, new fairing parts, bigger windshield, different wheels. There's just no end to the things you can do if you decide. Like I did in my case years ago, I wanted to have an evil twin Suzuki, but I didn't want to register and have two insurances on two separate bikes. Well, it worked. That worked pretty well for me. Anyway, just a thought as we head out. So Karen is right. Don't be a baby. Take care of all your errands and hope that we don't get snowed in the next day or so. And even if we do, I'll be out in the garage. So I'm off to number 1, Harbor Freight and Lowe's. And somewhere in the next few days, we will get these carburetors put on and tested. I doubt we're going to get a road test in, though, if it snows. Oh, it's a sunny day, but it is definitely cold. Good errand day. On days like this, I'm always glad I live near a Lowe's or a Home Depot, or both, in my case, and most of all, a Harbor Freight. So we have all our stuff to do our plumbing here. The new universal toilet kit. And the main thing, 40 pounds of bird seeds. So how convenient is it to live in Rutherford? Look at this. There's a Harbor Freight. Turbo Steve and I's favorite place. Next door, a BMW place, no interest. And right next door, Cycle Gear, not much interest. But we always have maximum interest, maximum, in Harbor Freight. So John Pothier gave me a heads up on getting a good crimping tool. He watched one of the videos and I was doing it with wire cutters. He says, get this tool, John. This is the right one. I know you sent me the link. I will add this to our tool inventory. How can you not like Harbor Freight? And whenever I'm here, I usually buy out every buffing pad they have. I use these like water, and with the upcoming Evil Twin project, we'll be using even more of them. It's a winter staple. What is another thing that's super handy? This is what I have those crimp pliers for. But these things, I got some of each size. Super, super, super handy. Just never get sick of shopping in Harbor Freight. Never get sick of buying bird seeds for my birds. And when Karen sends me food shopping, it's usually a disaster. I'm not going to predict anything. I always wind up buying extra pepperoni when she's not looking. Now, they don't pay me enough to be somebody's personal shopper, but Karen didn't feel good today, so I stepped up to the plate and struck out. Oh, I'll be so glad to get home. Part of this day is I even deliver food to Stacy and Miles. They're stocking up for the storm coming. Boy, I'm an errand boy. What a great feeling to be home and know that the garage It's still all below freezing here. Oh my God. So this is useful information to share from John Pothier, and he is very good with this type of work, and as well as being good in everything. So these crimping pliers crimp these type of things the correct way, and he sent me a little picture of how to do it correctly. And so look, we're always trying to upgrade, especially my electrical stuff. So I did get these. Now he told me one thing, they make these, there's a $6 pair and a $16 pair, and he said the $6 pair, gefilte fish. So I went and did what he said. I got the $16 pair, and John is always right about these kind of things. Thank you for the tip, John. I appreciate it. And we are upgraded. Another really good tip when you're going to do really nice buffing work. These pads, you use them. Use it with 8065, with Maguire, with Mother's polish. Use the pad. But if you let it dry out to where it's a week old and you then use it again, the polish has evaporated and left all the grit, and the grit scratches and you don't get that nice mirror finish. So I always buy plenty of them. They're plenty cheap, and whenever I want something to really buff out, if it's any of the things I'm going to be proud of, put on a new pad when you're all done, and don't think you can wash it and get away with that. Just buy a new pad. And another tip, as I do, keep all your buffing, polishing, everything that you're not using at that moment, keep it indoors. I always use an old laundry basket. So after all that running around and shopping, for which the wife, she's going to let me have 2 cups of coffee and a little snack. There's not much left. I got to warm up and head out to the tundra. And you can see why I had to buy bird seeds today. They're protesting out there. They're doing a protest march at my house. No food, Grandpa. So as I'm getting ready to go out to the tundra again, I wanted to share another good tip now. Luciano and I both have had friends that have had fires on a bike from gas. And gas, hot exhaust pipes and hot engines and gas. I think Luciano had somebody at a track day. I think it was Jim. His bike caught fire. But anyway, here's the whole point. This rag has, at one time, had gas on it. So what I do is I let it sit out in the rain a couple of days, just get all wet. But I notice as I walk by it, I could still smell the gas. And I know those fumes, if nothing else, they're not good to breathe. But a day or two from now, after that snows and rains and everything, that'll be good to put back in inventory. So I got all the tools and all the parts ready. Hopefully this will be our lucky day. I guess we're gonna find out. So the first thing, of course, musical motorcycles. Make some room, boy. Would I love to have a big garage like Luciano. Oh, Vince. Oh my God, what a garage. So obviously to do our test, step 1, if you forget to take these out, probably going to be, I'm not going to get it started immediately, that's for sure. But this kept anything foreign from getting down in there. Now to set up the clamps, and these are such a pain to get at. But we will survive. Now, I don't know if I'm going to have to hook up the cables, because I just want to see if it's leaking. I just want to run it. I don't need to even give it the gas. But the 2 things I have to do, I have to hook the fuel pump to my little fake gas tank, because what's going to happen if I don't have fuel pump pressure, it's not a valid test. I can't just take it out to the garage, hold a can up here and see if it's leaking. I want to see it under fuel pump pressure. Now, as many times as I've done this, I know it's a good idea just to put a swipe of wheel bearing grease around those boots. Now what happens is, because we're pretty much just coming up above freezing here, it's not really a warm day, I don't want to break or force or put pressure on any of this. Now I'll do the same thing to the carb lips, and hopefully what's going to happen, I hope they just can snap right in. Just the slightest bit of grease on this just makes it a whole lot easier, especially in cold weather. When it's cold, these rubber boots, the GS boots, turn into rocks. That rubber, when it's new, it's so nice and soft, and you just go poop. And sometimes on this you gotta really press, but I don't want to press and stress anything. I don't want to hit it with a rubber hammer or something. That's the problem. I want this to just go pop. you know they're totally seated when you can move the motorcycle by them. They have to be seated. And the one thing I learned you're not supposed to do is just go overly press one or the other. You want them all to go down as a unit. Okay, now I'm going to tighten up all the clamps. And I'm not going to hook up the throttle cable because I just want to, it'll leak right away, or if it doesn't leak, then I'm going to let it run 15 minutes just at idle, or move the throttle by my hand. But because hooking up the throttle cable and the choke, then if I have to take it apart again, say it leaks on another one, well, we've already repaired one. And you don't know, I'm suspecting it might be that joint between the two carburetors too. Now if it's this one, it's a real bear to replace. Replacing either one of the outer ones, a lot easier, if we have to do that. And no matter how you do it with these screws are just really inconvenient to get to. But them's the brakes. A wonderful tip, those little Harbor Freight flashlights, and they don't give them away anymore, not at the Harbor Freight I was at today. That really makes it easy. Do any of the work we have to do in there. Now the next step, and again this is one of the things I have to be really, really careful of. This tubing is cool. In fact, I think I'm going to go get the heat gun and warm this tubing up, because here's what I don't want to have happen. Even though it's new tubing, I don't want to force it on. I think I'm going to go get the heat gun. It's just cold enough out here that everything is like a rock. It's amazing what a little bit of heat changes everything. And in this really cold weather, ooh. Now what'll happen is, once that's warmed up, and I'll put a clamp on this once I know this is all good to go, but it just popped right on. That's beautiful. Okay, so that's one. Now I've got to take the opposite side, pull it off the fuel pump, and get my fake gas tank. So I showed this on a video years ago when we were working on this type of work, doing carb work. But it's just an ordinary coffee can. Inside, JB Weld of course, what else? And a little barb, and we have to find a piece of tubing the right size or make an adapter to get our 5/16 line on there, and a clamp. And then this will then just hang from a hook from the ceiling, and we'll be ready to feed that fuel pump. All I need is a couple ounces of fuel in there, and we'll know right away if it's leaking or not. So here's a part of the job that you think would not be a big deal, but it is because we have to connect. And you know, shame on me, I should have put two barbs on this, one of the other size, one of this size. Now if I could get this on, this is fine, but I'm going to have to heat this and see if the other end of it will go onto the fuel pump. And if that's the case, it's our lucky day. If not, we've got to fish around and find something that'll connect. Now I did have fuel filters at one time that connected a 5/16 to a 1/4 inch. Not sure I know where they are. This is one of the things you never anticipate this is going to take as long as it does. So the truth is, if we were working in warm California sun or Florida or something, we wouldn't have to do any of this. But you know, here we are on bomber patrol up here in Siberia. I don't know. So let's see if this is going to fit. It fit. My lucky day here. Oh yeah, my lucky day. Okay, we're ready to hang this up from an appropriate spot, and we have a fake fuel tank. But this is the only way you can run the bike, and with the fuel tank there, it covers up the carburetors. You can't do anything. So this is our final thing. Now, when I put these hooks, I'll put some tape, because here's the reason. I don't want to bump into that and the can falls over onto the motorcycle that has a red hot exhaust, and I'm inside my garage, and I don't want to put 5 gallons of gas in there. I'll put maybe 3 ounces or something. So what happened is I had to heat the fuel lines to get them on there, heat the fuel lines to get it onto the fuel pump. It looks like that might even be kinking down there. I've got to be careful of that. Make sure that's not kinking. In this cold weather, everything's a problem. And what will happen is I'll put some fuel in here. It'll take a couple seconds to get down into the pump. Pump will pump it up to the carbs, and it won't even matter if the engine's running. I'll be able to see if it's leaking from the joint or that carburetor that we did all the work on, or any of them, because these have all been apart, so you don't know which one, if any, are bad. This is really the best way I know of to do the test. Okay, the first thing, safety first, of course. I want to check I don't have this line of any way of spilling gas. I've got the fuel line on there. I don't have a way of right now opening the carburetors. Yeah, I guess I can just do them a little bit. I really don't need the choke. In fact, I can put the choke on manually if I want. Here it's going to want the choke on. Yeah, well, maybe I should have hooked up the cable. Well, let's see. Because, well, I don't even need to run it yet, because what's going to happen, I think when I put the carburetors under pressure, I'll be able to see if I have a leak before I even hit the starter button. Make sure I have a rag underneath here, so if any gas gets on there, I can just pull the rag right out. And let's see. Now we got to find out if it's our lucky day. Now when I hit the switch, what's going to happen, the fuel pump's going to fill the bowls, but I don't have to start the engine. That's going to be filling the bowls. So let's just see if we got, okay, that should mean that we have fuel pressure there. I don't see any leak yet. Let's see, just make sure we're not too cute about anything. Do not want to be too cute. Okay, not a drop, hopefully. Hopefully is a big word. Okay, now when I go to start this, it's going to be a problem, as I don't have a throttle or a choke. No. But let's see if that's going to do anything. Now it's not running because I don't have the choke on, so I don't have. This was my mistake for not hooking up the choke cable. Well, there's a way around it. I'll just put a little starter fluid in each one of these. Now, unfortunately, once I got the engine afire, it's leaking again. It's leaking from the same spot. Looks like the same gasket. So I guess the thing we're going to have to do here, and I don't know, is get some parts off the old Carbs. I'm not sure we're going to be able to do that today, but we do confirm that, at least from this test, that carb is still leaking. So we're going to have to live to fight another day here. But this actually, it was time consumed doing this test. But now, once I have that resolved, or hopefully resolved, I'll at least know I can just push this bike up out of the way. And it'll only be a matter of maybe 10 minutes and I'll be able to test it again. And I think what I'm going to do is one of the extra sets of carbs, pull one of the float bowls off, see what condition the gaskets are in. But it's definitely this carb that's leaking. So at least we know that for sure, and it's still leaking. So at least it's been a success in terms of, well, we didn't freeze to death either. But we know we have not solved the problem. So that leads me to believe that I may have to do other work to that. It's that end carburetor that's the problem. And I have another set of carburetors. I'm thinking one of the things I may be able to do, I'll talk to Luciano about this, just take the end carb off one of the other sets of carbs. I don't know. I got to think about this overnight. It's going to be a challenge, that's for sure. But that's what old motorcycles are. They're always a challenge. What I wanted to show after diagnosing this and fooling around with it is once I put this, let me get this on. Once I get this under pressure, it would help if I turn the key on. I want to see, you can see it leaking out of that carburetor. I've got a rag down there to catch it. That's that old rag that's drying out. Well, that rag's going to stay out. See when it's under pressure? So I know for sure it's this side, and I will not have to touch the float bowl. So I will see if I can pull that part off one of the other carbs. But the problem is, that's a job for another day, because this day has really dragged out with all these trips and errands. And I'm very happy to know now it's not the float bowl. Because if it was the float bowl leaking, I would have to wait to get parts from Sudco. This part, if I have the other set of carbs and I can pull it apart, I've already got the bike prepped up and I have the fake gas tank. So the next day I get to work on this, I think it'll be, well, relatively easy. But old motorcycles, and if you could pick up some information about how to do this test I know Luciano is really good at this, but he was not available today for some help. And he was doing a pepperoni testing contest. But anyway, that allows us to know exactly the part we have to take apart. And we have to break. This carb has to come off, and that little piece with the 2 O-rings has to be either replaced, renewed, or a new part from Sudco. And we'll figure that out in the next couple days. I know you'll get a kick out of this, but I can lower the gas tank with a winch. I'll bet Joe has been impressed with that. Anyway, what I do want to do is lower it enough that I can, I still got to lower it some more. Shame on me. I have a $70 winch so I can lower a gas tank with 2 ounces of gas in it. But it's safety first, of course. I don't want the gas in the shop loose like this. I'll put it all outside, put it back in a can for another day. And as I always say, live to fight another day. I don't like containers of gas in my shop. I'm paranoid about it. And I put a bolt in that fuel line where it's open, but now I have it all connected in a certain way. So from this point on, working on the carb and coming out the next day we work on it should be a whole lot easier. Now see, I saved the time. If I had hooked up all the cables and everything, I would be another hour later in the day. So I got to bite the bullet, and I've got to replace that little connector that goes between the carbs as the next step. So I'm hoping, hey, I may as well sit down and relax. I'm tired. What I'm really hoping is, it sounds like this would be a nonsensical thing, but when you have to diagnose something, and any sport bike with carbs in, you got to do away with the tank. This is a great idea. That was Luciano's idea. I'm sure it's not totally original, but it doesn't matter. We don't get paid for those original ideas. What is really important here is I have learned some of the basics of doing the testing. I hope I've been able to share that testing. That's the critical thing, is being able to share it. So, and having those extra sets of carbs. So my thought is always, anytime you see a spare parts, if you have a 30-year-old bike and you see some parts you may or may not need in the future, and you can buy a set of carbs really cheap, you'll use the parts eventually. Believe me, these old bikes, they always need something. And in the case of, this is what I can't do. With the RD, I just bit the bullet, spent $300 for brand new Makunis for the RD, so it would be perfect and run on the razor edge. Well, I can't do that with this. There's no such thing as buying these carburetors brand new. If I could, they'd probably be $1,000. But I will figure this out. I'll share it on one of the next videos anyway, because right now the only thing left to do is make sure the snowblower runs. Tonight, the big snow is coming, so I'm glad I got this done today. Before I end the video, thank you guys to the healthcare workers. Oh my God, I can't imagine, as we go into this spike that we're having right now, I can't imagine the kind of work when you have to work with the people getting sick all the time. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. And I hope you understand another thing too. If you're really a serious person that wants to learn from the videos, I try to present the information I know. I hope it's correct. I try not to leave out any steps. I do it from the bottom of my heart because I really would, when I go to a meetup, I see the old bikes that people put, the guy with the Vincent and Dale and all these people that keep these old bikes running. It's beautiful. And in the same thing in aviation, the guys that keep the B-17s flying and the P-51s, it's a miracle that we still have that. And not everybody in the world has that. Some places in the world, they just put these things in a dumpster. Well, I'm going to find out where I can rent a dumpster if this car, I'll have it fixed. I don't need, see, I can't sleep at night until I get it fixed. So next time you see me, I'll be all bleary-eyed. Anyway, I don't want to go on and on. Thank you so much for watching. It is really an adventure that I've had a lot of fun, a lot of enjoyment. It's helped me stay young, and I'm so happy I can share it with my friends on YouTube. Thanks for watching. So we do try to post up every few days, hopefully every day, but some days it doesn't work out, like with this big snowstorm coming. Anyway, the reason I love these old bikes, this bike has been a thrill to own, a thrill to ride. I've track dated, ridden it. It's been nothing but entertainment, and even it's been a learning experience working on it. So I hope I've been able to share some of that information with you and you can use it productively. And thanks so much for watching.